everyone, and welcome to Spoilers, obviously. I'm your host, Joel, and with me today, Moses Moon.
Yeah! Everybody get your hands up! We're gonna do this podcast right! Let's go! Yeah! Alright! Alright, I'm done. Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, man, it's all good in the hood. What's going on with you, brother?
I'm doing great. Another episode with Moses is always a great time.
It's always good to be here. Joel, you are a legend.
Thanks, man. But you are a god. You are a moon. You are a moon god.
You are just saying that because you mean it. That's okay.
Yeah. Anyways,
Moving on. Hey,
what shall we
what are we
talk about
doing?
today?
I don't have any sound effects that would represent the great beasts and creatures of
Our conversations.
our conversation that I think we should have. I'm quickly scanning through, and no, I can't find anything related to dragons. But yeah, I think we should talk about dragons.
So we are going to talk about Game of Thrones, House of the Dragons.
House of Dragons, yeah.
Yeah, House of the Dragons. So you have Game of Thrones, and the acronym for Game of Thrones is, well, no, not the acronym, but in short, Game of Thrones is GOT. G-O-T.
Got House of Dragons, got milk.
Exactly. Is the acronym? Is it
when you break them down to the first letters? Yeah.
No, but when you take a big word and break it down to like letters.
Well, it depends on how you break it down, but if it's by the first letter, aka like Game of Thrones, that's an acronym.
Okay, so the acronym for this TV show is Hot D.
And that's what it's all about. Hot D. Straight up D.
Yeah,
so much D.
So much D. So much hot, steamy D.
Yep.
Anyways, so we're going to talk about the very first episode of House of the Dragon. This show is based off of the book Fire and Blood. But the thing is, it's not based on the entire book. It's based on like a little portion of the book. So basically, how much story can you give me over here? We do know in Game of Thrones, every season is based on one book. Over here, you took one book, you took the last portion of the book, and you're giving me a story. You could have done from the very beginning and show me the House Targaryen throughout the years, throughout like 300 years. The book overall is a span of like 300-400 years. You're giving me the last 100-200 years of that story. So because of that, I don't expect to have season 2, even 3, 4. Like I would be surprised how they will do more seasons off that little portion.
It sounds like a very what they did with Lord of the Rings. So
yeah,
to an extent.
Yeah,
but we have yet to find out
what they did with The Hobbit, to be more accurate. How they took a small book and basically
made it 3 movies. Yeah,
3 movies. So I don't expect 8 seasons like Game of Thrones. I could see maximum, and this is like really milking it because it's a small portion of the book. Maybe 4 seasons.
It's possible. I mean, once they ran out of writing material, it's the quick decline. So we'll see where that plays out. But what were your first immediate impressions?
So my first immediate impressions, it's not okay. We all know it's about the Targaryens family. For some reason, everyone went apeshit, like in a good way, for this episode. Like, oh my god, this is an amazing episode, amazing opening. It got 9 stars on IMDb, and because I am in love with Game of Thrones. Yes, the last few seasons were shit, but most of Game of Thrones was actually and art. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What grabbed me in Game of Thrones was the first episode, especially when they push Bran off the tower. That is what
Yep.
grabbed me. Over here, nothing really grabbed me. In short, this entire episode was we Targaryens never had female queens. We never had female to take over after the king dies. We never had female heirs. Well, now we do. The end.
I mean, it sets
That
up
is
the conflict.
that is basically the episode. In the shortest way possible.
Mm.
So
I
it's
do
like,
admit that all the themes for what this episode was didn't seem like, because they don't have too much to go on, they just kind of crammed what could have been like 2-3 episodes to build up into this like, all right, we're establishing conflict, the young daughter and the uncle slash brother. So
yeah.
mhm.
So basically, this episode did not grab me the same way Game of Thrones did.
Mm.
I do love this world. I love the world of Game of Thrones.
Being back in Westeros is really nice.
It definitely is. I would, because we are focusing about the Targaryens, I would have appreciated them giving us the 300 years. So they open this episode telling us that this is about 172 years before Daenerys Targaryen was born, and before the Mad King died. When the Mad King died, when Daenerys was born and the Mad King died, Game of Thrones as a TV show takes place 20 years after that. So basically, this is about 190 years, let's round it up, 200 years before Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so they tell us, this is the year 101. It's the year 101 since Aegon Targaryen took over Westeros and he became the king and united all the kingdoms together. So it's so it's 101 from that year. I would have loved to see all of that, because Aegon Targaryen, he married both of his sisters. He was the one who also created the Iron Throne. He was a complete amazing maniac.
The origin story of the Iron Throne would be pretty dope.
Yeah, that would be amazing to watch. I do know after Game of Thrones, George R. R. Martin did say he would love to continue with his stories, to do a few miniseries and a few actual long series. George R. R. Martin did say he wants to do like 5 TV shows, more or less. Some of them miniseries, some of them long series, just like Game of Thrones. And one of them is Robert's Rebellion, which takes place 20 years before Game of Thrones. And that should be like a miniseries, if I'm not mistaken.
My first impressions of the show was relatively positive. Like I said, it was really good to jump back into the world of Westeros, especially seeing it kind of pre-Game of Thrones. So the connotations of the world we're seeing in old sets, yet refurbished in such a way that it's like, yeah, this feels relatively clean, different. Like the map wasn't on the floor, and like the familiar places we've been. And it's like, okay, it's kind of heartwarming in its own right, but at the same time, having coming off the backlash and the foul taste of season 8, definitely a lot of hesitation. However, they didn't hold any punches. They kind of like showed us the level, like, yep, there's the nudity, yep, there's the famous brutality, which I'm all for in this case because it makes sense. But at the same time, I was relatively pleased. The writing was really well done. The script felt like it flew really naturally, and it felt good to be back there. At the same time, I was watching the episode very scrupulously and trying to find if there was anything in particular that would, strike me in one way or another. And just because this is the first episode, I wasn't, it left a lot of room and left me with a lot of, okay, I'm gonna have to be patient and see where this goes. But they set up everything nicely. Like I said, a little crammed, but I'm excited. I'm genuinely excited to see where this goes. It feels really nice to be back.
Yeah, I also very much loved seeing, like, they gave us a very quick tour of how the castle looks now.
Hmm.
Like you said, the map, we do see the dragon pit
Hmm.
where in the
In
last,
use.
while it's still in its glory time. And in Game of
Hmm.
Thrones, we see it as a ruined. Daenerys did tell us that that was one of the downfalls of the dragons. But yeah, like I said, I'm very excited to enter this world. I'm not sure how many seasons we'll get. I'm not sure if this is going to be a mini series or an actual long series like Game of Thrones. We'll see. Like, I do understand that this show is not the same directors as Game of Thrones.
Mm.
So
Yeah, it felt clean. It felt new. So no burnt outness. Let's hope that he keeps this excitement along.
yeah, so that is one thing I do appreciate, because the directors did do a great job in the beginning, but slowly they said, we're tired of it. We want to stop. And then they basically fucked Game of Thrones over.
Mm.
So having someone else is very exciting. And what I love, it's still an HBO show. So it's
Yeah.
still under the same house. So we know what to expect. We know, like you said, we're going to see blood, we're going to see sex, nudity, we're going to see like realism in
Mm.
every aspect. Yes,
I liked how they didn't hold back. Like they knew this is Targaryen. We're gonna see dragons right away. There's no holding back. It's just like, yeah, here's this type of dragon. Here's this type of dragon. They're fucking cool. Similar standards. I noted it was a little weaker in the CGI department, but at the same time,
Yes.
like I didn't care because I was like, all right, dragons, let's go.
Yes, I do have to say the CGI was not the best for me.
Mm.
But it was it was still a good CGI. It wasn't like those horrible 2000s TV shows like where you see a dragon who can talk. It's like, oh my god, this is horrible. But no,
Mm.
this was it was a very good CGI. I don't know what was the budget for this show, but I'm pretty sure it was a big budget.
It felt pretty big. Like they weren't too claustrophobic in their settings and
Yeah.
majorly utilizing. It thematically made sense. They didn't like, when you get that sense that they like had a lower budget, so they're reusing certain sets because they look good, like specifically because they don't have anywhere else to shoot, and
Mhm.
like everything felt like they had the right placing. Everything felt like there was no conversations that were held in a place like, oh, this is weird, like why would they be talking there. It's like everything had their right setting and sets, and the wide shots were beautiful. And like let's say the funeral scene, like they're out on the
On the
cliff
fields.
sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like so the world felt again lived in and very like open, but in particular that setting for the sword throne, like that fucking was beautiful, especially seeing the extension of like the old throne had a lot of fucking swords around it. That was rad.
Yeah, that was amazing. I So to answer anyone who has a problem or wants to know why now it has a lot of swords and in Game of Thrones there's not a lot of swords, in the book the throne actually looks completely different. The stairs are made out of swords, and it's very like towered upwards.
Mhm.
Obviously you can't really do that for a TV show because you need to camera work and all that. So they did it like, here the stairs, let's put swords on that.
I
When
like that look. It looked really good,
Oh
and
no,
it also can. Go
it
ahead.
yeah, no, it looked really good. I really liked it. But what I'm saying over here, why in the Game of Thrones we don't see all the swords on the stairs? When Robert Baratheon became king, he told us he got rid of anything Targaryen possible.
Yeah.
So he got rid of a lot of dragon skulls, and he put it in the basement. He dungeons, to be more accurate. He he got rid of all the swords. Obviously, he's not going to get rid of the throne because that is the throne. But anything that is Targaryen, he got rid of it, and that's why in Game of Thrones there's not as many swords as there is in this show. They tell us very early on, and we obviously know this, that the one thing that is the downfall of the Targaryen is itself.
Mm-hmm.
And we do kind of see it also in Game of Thrones, how basically Daenerys burned the city, and everyone immediately like, yeah, you're crazy. But
Girl, you got problems.
exactly. But what I liked, if you mirror that, how Daenerys was flying over the capital with her dragon, and over here you see dragons flying. Over in Game of Thrones, everyone was like, "Oh my god, dragon!" Like they were freaking out. Over here, like, "Oh yeah, it's just a bird flying." Like no one really paid attention to it.
No one bats an eye.
Exactly, because dragons have been flying in the capital for about 200-300 years now.
Good times, good times.
100 years.
I wonder if I wouldn't say match shot for shot, but if there were certain shots that were mirrored, like if you were to play Daenerys flying over the capital and Rhaenyra, whatever,
like that.
Flying over. If there are certain shots that like parallel shot for shot, you know what I mean?
That
would be interesting poetry. I doubt it, but
there could be. Here's a little fun fact. So in Game of Thrones, the Red Woman, forgot her name, Missara,
the witch girl.
yeah, the Red Woman. So she is, as we know, over 200 years old.
So she could be there.
Yeah, so we do know she's not in Westeros. We do know she is in someplace else as a girl, but we could potentially in the future, I really doubt it, but we could potentially see her as a little girl, as a slave, because we do know she and her mother were slaves, and she said she was a slave and she broke out of it. So
that's true.
That would be interesting if we will see it. But anyways, when we do see the king, and he is desperate to have an heir, a son. His wife is pregnant, and he says like, yeah, I know you're having a son. And they do tell us like, this is the last time I'm gonna be pregnant.
Indeed.
But no, she says either way, this is the last time because I can't do this anymore. And it tells us, okay, you have a daughter and you've been trying to get pregnant for multiple times and it always failed. And we do know Targaryens, they like to inbreed. I understood that the king is married to his cousin. They usually marry into siblings.
Keep it in the blood, make it pure.
To make the blood pure. But they usually marry siblings, but I understood that this is actually her cousin. So obviously she'll have problems giving birth. So it came to a point as she was giving birth that the witch doctor, I forget their names. I'll take me time.
Doctors.
It'll take me time to actually come back and remember everyone's names. It's been a few years since I've seen since Game of Thrones was on TV. But anyways, basically the witch doctor says we have two options over here. Option one, we save one of them and the other dies, which is basically tells us we save the baby, and because she can't push the baby out, or they both die. Either way, the mother dies, the wife dies. Either way. So it was hard it was a hard decision for him to make, but honestly, was it a hard decision because they told you either way she dies, like no matter, like we can only save one, and the only way to save the baby is to cut her belly. To save her, there's no other way. So
yeah, well, it was tough for sure. I'm not.
Yeah, no, it is a definitely tough decision to make. but it is honestly the only decision there is, because obviously
Mm-hmm.
no one would come and say, okay, well, if she's going to die 100% either way, you know what? Let's kill the baby, as well. Like, no, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
at least let's try to save the baby. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
No,
it's
it made sense. It wasn't at like a point where it was like, oh, this doesn't like everything made sense. Like there
yeah.
wasn't a point where I was like, well, that's just crude. Like that's not necessary.
We see the dynamic between Raina, the main character. I forget her name, and
Hmm.
her uncle, the king's
Yeah.
brother,
Matt Smith,
Matt
fucking
Smith.
phenomenal. Great
Yeah,
choice. Big
he he
fan.
he was absolutely amazing. Um,
He owned it, and I'm very excited to see how he plays. He's one of those like bad guys you root for because
yeah,
he's so charismatic.
he did tell us in an interview that his character is a one crazy motherfucker, and
Well,
we
he
can
certainly proved that.
yeah, we definitely see it in the first episode. He butchers people left and right for absolutely just to prove like here we have power. Shut the fuck up. He
Well, the law needed to be upheld, and the Gold Cloaks were the
yeah
ones appointed to it, so he'll make a point of it.
he's the one who created the gold cloaks. So
Yeah,
yeah
exactly. That's his. The watch was his charge, so you know.
yeah. So it was definitely interesting to see that. I did hear we are going to see like 9 or 10 dragons overall. In this episode alone, we saw two.
Hmm.
Nymeera's and this guy. I'll take me
This
time to remember.
motherfucker.
Yeah, it'll take me time to remember everyone's names. She also doesn't have an easy name. But basically, after the wife and the baby dies,
Prince Damien.
Prince Damien. That's an easy name to remember.
There you go.
But after the baby dies, Prince Damien says, he kind of mocks the situation and says, the baby was ill for a day and gives him that kind of nickname. And
Yep.
that what it kind of screwed him over, and he is no longer a is able to be an heir to the throne because his brother cast him away to where the Targaryens landed first when they came from High Valyria, and they came over here,
Yep.
Westeros. What do you think of everything? What is
I
going on?
liked it. I like going back into the world and then seeing it as from this perspective and seeing the time. Like I like I like that Game of Thrones doesn't beat you over the head with messages or whatever. They're just not afraid about being showing things to time period accuracy. There are some things that it's like, okay, what are they gonna like show that people might interpret? Like, let's say
Rhaenyra, something like
Rhaenyra's
that.
friendship with her best friend, her ward, if you will, which is the daughter of the Hand. Some people might want to ship them, but I don't think that's appropriate because like they in this world, like they could be just best friends. If they like crank up the heat on that, I'm gonna be a little disappointed because like again, not everything needs to be sexualized, and sometimes having a good friend definitely doesn't need to be sexualized. And I think it would be at least in par for the story. I think the dynamics between them will be interesting, especially as she's going to become queen eventually, potentially because of this feud that's about to be unleashed. Um, I think the dynamics that are set up, especially because she loves her uncle, but at the same time now has to turn him into an opponent or he'll, it's always the evil bad uncle, which is, very interesting, reminiscent of Scar and Hamlet and so on and so forth. Uh, so I'm pretty stoked. Like they have a lot of things ready, primed to go that I think will be really nice. The world is well established, and I think as much as the people are excited, I'm excited. There's a lot that has yet to play through, and it was really cool seeing a lot of the hinted backstory with the various houses at play, from High Tower to I don't think they mentioned the Lannisters. Maybe they did. I think I
I,
missed
I,
that.
I don't think they mentioned the Lannisters, but they did mention Baratheon and Stark for
And
like a brief
Baratheon,
second.
yeah, and Stark, yeah, and of course everyone's gonna cheer, hey! But
Rickon
but
Stark.
yeah, and I think that's really rad, and it's really cool to see those details come to play because it's really fun. It's like when they're doing this, it's like playing like almost D&D. Like, you played a session in the first this era of later, and now when you touch on it, you get to like you playing in an earlier session. It's like, oh, there's all the little strings still attached that we know will come to some dynamic in the future, which is really fun. And so seeing all that is definitely exciting. It seems that the show writers really care about the world. There wasn't anything that like there was no like fuck you to the previous notions, which by all means they're like well entitled to, but they didn't because clearly they love the world. There was no part that felt cheap to me, so I'm all for it. And I really liked the dad's the king's the father's recognition, be like, I wanted a son so bad, I just never saw you. And like, here are all the real things that you need to learn, especially the hint of the Song of Fire and like Ice and Fire, excuse me, the Song of Ice and Fire. Fire and Ice. Anyways, doesn't matter. The point
The
is
song of
that like
Ice and Fire, yeah.
yeah, and like that little detail's cool to the world, but also maybe crucial because now that she knows this and Damien doesn't, so it's really interesting to see. I love the tournament, the tourney. It felt really cool to be whizzed into that. That felt exciting and brutal, and definitely they evolved it from being like this entertainment, even within the shots, it was exhilarating, to like this commentary of the situation at hand, and it was like, whew, it's a little heavy-handed.
Yeah.
But it was good, and I'm very excited to see where this plays out, and I'm especially excited to watch Matt Smith divulge into this dreaded character because he's probably going to, in my opinion, going to be like one of the best villains we've seen in a long time.
I definitely hope so, because again, he said that he really loves this character. I've seen a few interviews, and he said like this is one of his favorite works that he did, and he definitely loves it. So once you do something you really love, you most likely put all of your hard work and passion into it. So I'm very, very excited to see how crazy he can go.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see it pretty quickly. Like, I have a sneaking suspicion, like he took his harlot home.
Yeah.
So clearly, he's either gonna murder his wife or like stomp her to the curb. I don't know. It's probably gonna be horrible and tragic, and his madness will begin.
Yeah, he does tell us he hates his wife. He doesn't even consider being married to her. So this is basically my expectations. Some of these expectations, spoilers, obviously. I gave myself spoilers, so I know what to expect. So you said you don't want to see the heat up between the, future queen and her best friend. Well, guess what? They're definitely going to turn that heat up, and they're going to become enemies.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
That's a nice angle. Yeah, everyone's
Yeah.
playing for the throne again, I guess. I don't know. I don't see the hand's claim to it, but all right.
No. So, okay, she's not going to become like, I want to be the queen or something. But I do understand they at some point become enemies. So, okay, when we first start the episode, they give us a dialogue, a narration. They give us a narration.
Yeah.
And the narration sounds like the main character, but older, like how they did in How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
So I expect we are basically going to have at some point a time jump in this season, like maybe 20 years later. I don't know how many years, but let's say like 10, 20 years later. And they when they tell us, the first time, the king, all of his sons died, and he had no heirs later, and there were 14 candidates, but out of the 14s, only 2 legitimate. And there was his daughter and his son.
Yep.
So those 14 candidates are basically the Dance of Dragons. The Dance of Dragons is basically all the Targaryens fighting against each other and killing each other. We do see that, or they do mention it in Game of Thrones with Sir Davos of the Iron Ship and the little girl who has a grayscale on her face.
The bear person.
No. She's a Baratheon, and she has like a grayscale on her face. She is the daughter of
that
Stannis
girl.
Baratheon.
Yeah. Who gets burnt? Yeah, good on her.
So she does read the book, and Sir Davos does ask her, "What is the book you're reading?" And he says, "The Dance of Dragons." So the Dance of Dragons is the Targaryens, all of them battling against each other and killing each other. So now in this episode, we see basically for the first time we're going to have a queen. She's not queen yet. She is just now officially an heir to the throne. Now we do see the king. He has something on his back and he cuts his finger.
The first potential sign of grayscale, the origin, patient zero.
I don't know if it's
Probably
the first sign of grayscale, but I do take it as this is a sign that he is going to die soon. So when they kill him off, I'm not going to be shocked.
Yeah, no, he's gonna die as soon as you pass the title. It's like, yeah, you're obsolete. / like, guy keeps cutting himself, so unintentionally, but
there is a rumor like within Game of Thrones, a king who keeps cutting himself on the throne. It basically means he is not worthy of ruling and sitting on the throne. So the fact that he keeps cutting himself,
yep.
So the fact that he keeps cutting himself, that's like tells the people he's not worthy of ruling and shouldn't be on the throne. And they also mock him like he's an easy king, a pushover. He only wants peace. But anyways, this is what I expect. Once he dies, his daughter becomes queen. No one is going to have it. Everyone is going to battle. Yes, some of them are going to be like, you know what, I'm okay with it. I don't mind to having a queen. But most of the Targaryens, because they do tell us the Targaryens are the ones who is going to, kill each other in the very beginning. I expect that is what's going to cause the Dance of the Dragons. All of the other who were worthy to rule, who were candidates, they're gonna come and like, yeah, let's do this battle. And we're going to see a huge battle of shit ton of dragons.
Dragons. Hell yeah.
Shit tons of dragons. A lot of men on horses and swords and just insane battle. I do expect that to be episode 9 because we all know episode 9 is always the epic episode. But yeah, this is what I expect. Now, how long will that take until we get that episode, like timeline? Because I did say I do expect to have a time jump. I think she could be maybe queen for like 10 years, and then all this will happen. We do see at the end her best friend, goes to the king to comfort him, obviously later to have sex with him, and they become close. Yeah, potentially, but they get close with one another. Maybe they will have a son, and then like, oh, my son is now. He's kind of.
I'm your mom and your best friend. No, you're not.
so that could bring a conflict. The thing is, I don't want to see another Game of Thrones. I don't want to see a battle for the throne, but it kind of looks like this is what we're getting within the Targaryen family.
Well, we shall see.
Yeah, Game of Thrones was a battle to the throne with all the houses, mainly the Starks and Lannisters and Baratheons. But this is basically a Game of Thrones with the Targaryen family.
The timeline of the Targaryens. Yeah. It'll be interesting. Well, the thing is, we have the history behind it, so we should know how it plays out. But even so, to see how or what's going on, because they shouldn't veer too far or anything off of that, because we know that it needs to chronologically line up. So
yeah. Well, yeah, we will definitely see. I don't expect to see any White Walkers.
Prophesied, but no.
maybe talked about here and there, but I don't expect to see them. We do see the tree, with the face,
Yes.
which was
Yep.
interesting because in Game of Thrones they do tell us they took down that tree hundreds of years ago. So this is the first time we actually see the tree in King's Landing. It's like, oh wow, this is
Yeah.
that was a nice touch.
I liked how it wasn't prominent. It was there, and it's like,
Yeah,
okay, obviously but it wasn't given its like divine respect,
yeah,
if you will. At the
yeah.
same time, like all I know is I don't think this series is going to be fan service, but I think all I heard basically was, "You wanted more dragons? Well, here you go," and just crank that up to 11,
Yeah, basically. I
and I'm okay with that.
I'm definitely okay with it. I'm definitely okay with also expanding the world of George R. R. Martin and seeing more TV shows.
Mhm.
But the
Well,
thing
that
is, like,
dude needs to finally actually just admit that he's going to die and finish the damn book
oh
so
yeah,
that he
yeah,
can rake it all in and die in peace.
most definitely. He gave a lot of history to his world. But like I said, I'm not sure if this show is going to be a mini series or an actual, several seasons series.
Mm,
I don't expect, more than four
I agree.
seasons, and that's, milking it. I would love again to see a lot more of this world, different TV shows, again, all under HBO.
Yeah.
Um, I think it would be amazing. They did announce a spinoff or a side spinoff about Jon Snow.
Mm,
Yeah, so we're gonna have another TV show called Snow.
why?
Yeah, why? That is like that is a
He
pointless.
knows nothing.
Exactly. That is a pointless TV show in my point of view as of right now. We'll see in the future. But
Mm,
this that show will obviously take place after Game of Thrones, but you're focusing on one character who is going to be in Beyond the Wall. What, like, now there's
if
peace, there's peace.
yeah,
So
I
what can you really
mean,
tell me?
could do that loophole and just go back
And go back and actually become the king because he actually is.
and then just ban the eunuchs. But whatever. No one cares at this
I
point for that timeline.
so so with this show there was, I'm pretty sure this is accurate. I'm not 100%, but I heard that they put like $30 million just in the first episode, and then HBO canceled it. They canceled the show,
Hmm.
and only a few years later, they decided, you know what, let's bring it back. So the thing is, if hey, they did film all of this, let's say 2-3 years ago, the actors themselves, they did get older. I don't know if some of them died from COVID or whatever. So I don't know what could happen, but this show was canceled at some point and then it was brought back. So that
Yeah.
is a bit worrisome for the future. It did get, 9 stars this episode. A lot of people, loved
It's
it.
a good episode. I'd place it at a solid 8. Like it was,
I
dude.
I would put in a solid 6. You
Mm,
know,
fair
it
enough. Fair enough.
first episodes are very crucial, and I have to say, Lord of
You
the
weren't.
Rings,
You're.
Lord of
Mm.
the Rings, The Power of the Rings, that is coming out in like what, a week or two,
Oh my
has,
God! Is it
yeah,
really coming out that soon?
yeah, September 2nd. It has a lot to hold up to now. So we're getting two mythical worlds, they're all amazing of their
Mm.
own way, in their own way.
Well, we all know. I mean, look, they nailed the aesthetics of things to more or lesser extent. We'll just have to see how it holds up content wise.
Yeah, we definitely will have to. Um,
I'm
but
gonna have to look up the release date.
2nd of September. Um,
Fuck, that's so close. Ah, I don't
yeah,
know how to feel.
yes, we have a lot of content coming up for our podcast. Spoilers, obviously. And
Spoilers,
with
obviously.
that, I do believe we got to the end of our episode. I am your host, Joel, and with me today, Mr. Moon.
That's right, it's me. It's Mr. Moon.
I will put all the links in the bio of his Instagram, radio, My Hebrew podcast. Give us 5 stars in every place you can listen, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, whatever. And we were talking about House of the Dragon, or Hot D.
Hot D.
As the cool kids say, the very first episode. We are spoilers, obviously, and we will talk with you again in the next episode of Spoilers, obviously. Goodbye and good night.